a storm prompts evacuation orders at a base in Florida, and what was in a time capsule opened at West Point? All of that and more today, August 29th, 2023. Good morning, early birds. I'm Jonathan Lehrfeld, and this is the Early Bird Brief, produced by Defense News and Military Times. First up, the base commander at MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa, Florida, issued a mandatory evacuation yesterday before the storm Idalia makes its soon-expected landfall. Colonel Adam Bingham, MacDill's base commander, issued the installation-wide evacuation announcement yesterday for all non-mission essential individuals and dependents. The National Hurricane Center said it expected Idalia to become a hurricane later in the day yesterday and turn into a dangerous major hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico by early tomorrow before its expected landfall. At a news conference yesterday, Governor Ron DeSantis said he has activated a state of emergency for several counties.
I have expanded our state of emergency, the executive order, to include 13 additional counties. So that'll be 46 that are under a state of emergency, of course, on the Gulf Coast, but also as you look at the track of that storm, you're going to see northern Florida, north central Florida, northeastern Florida counties.
According to the MacDill statement, military personnel and civilian employees at the base must receive approval from their chain of command to evacuate. The limited evacuation order with travel reimbursement will be released in the near future. Last September, Category 4 Hurricane Ian forced MacDill to evacuate personnel. Ian avoided a direct hit on the base, but at least 13 people were killed during the storm. MacDill is home to the 6th Air Refueling Wing, which flies the KC-135 Stratotankers. More than 24 units from all branches of the military are also stationed at the base. 2 combatant commands, U.S. Central Command and Special Operations Command, are also headquartered at the base. A CENTCOM spokesperson told Military Times in an email that its hazardous weather procedures continue to allow them to accomplish their mission while ensuring the safety of personnel and their families. In an emailed statement, a Special Operations Command spokesperson said personnel who live on base are being relocated inland, and to ensure it maintains its mission, essential personnel will operate out of multiple contingency locations. In addition to the base evacuation, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis announced in a statement that the Florida National Guard is mobilizing 1,100 personnel to support anticipated areas of impact. 12 aircraft and 2,400 high-wheel vehicles were also mobilized. DeSantis also said yesterday, now is the time to prepare.
You have time to make the preparations. You have time to do what you need to do to protect yourself and your family. So if you are in the path of this storm, anywhere on that Gulf Coast, from the Tampa Bay area all the way up to Franklin County in Northwest Florida, just prepare for major impact.
In other news, we're tracking an Osprey crash in Australia over the weekend involving a number of U.S. Marines. For more on this, Marine Corps Times reporter Irene Lowenson joins the episode today. Hey Irene, what can you tell us about what happened over the weekend? What are the latest details we have on the number of Marines injured or killed?
So on Sunday morning, local time in Australia, an Osprey, an MV-22 Osprey carrying 23 Marines crashed, and 3 Marines were confirmed dead. 8 remain in the hospital. This is as of right now, which is around noon on Monday Eastern time, but apparently 20 of the 23 Marines have survived. And I think the Marine Corps plans to release more updates as they know more and as families are notified.
Do we know yet what caused the incident? When was the last time something of this nature happened?
We don't yet know the cause of the incident. The Marine Corps has said it is investigating what happened. The last time an Osprey crash happened was June 2022, when an Osprey in California carrying 5 Marines crashed. All 5 Marines were killed. The Marine Corps announced just last month that it had concluded its investigation and that the investigation had found that the problem was a hard clutch engagement in the Osprey. In a hard clutch engagement, what happens is the clutch, which connects the engine to one propeller's rotor gearbox, slips momentarily and then re-engages, and that often severely damages components of one of the engines, and then that causes the aircraft to lurch and can result in a crash. Now, it's unclear exactly what happened in the Osprey crash over the weekend. We probably won't have an official answer for several months. And it's worth noting that the Joint Program Office for the Osprey said that it had reduced the likelihood of hard clutch engagements by 99%. It's still unclear exactly what happened over in Australia over the weekend.
And I heard there was sadly another recent Marine crash. What can you tell us about that?
So that was a crash involving the FA-18 Hornet in California. A Marine pilot who was the only person aboard that aircraft died in a crash near Miramar on Thursday. So it has been an exceptionally tough week for the Marine Corps and for Marine Corps aviation. The Marine Corps identified the pilot who died in that crash as Major Andrew Metler, who was assigned to a unit over at 2nd MAW in South Carolina, but was over on the West Coast for a training exercise.
Thanks, Irene. Another important story. The Department of Veterans Affairs announced the latest results of its unprecedented outreach to homeless veterans. VA staffers found housing for more than 26,000 veterans at risk of homelessness in the first 7 months of this year. The agency credited community partners for their part. More than 67,000 veterans have received permanent housing since the start of 2022. The housing help is a part of an administration-wide effort to cut down on homelessness across America. Federal researchers estimate, though, that as many as 33,000 veterans around the country lack safe, stable housing on any given night. Department officials are hopeful given their advances over the last year. VA leaders hope those figures will decrease when updated studies are released later this fall. The announcement came as the department simultaneously announced nearly $1 billion in support grants for housing and assistance programs. That money will be distributed to more than 700 community organizations. The money is included in the department's annual budget and includes both the VA Supportive Services for Veteran Families and Homeless Providers Grant and Per Diem programs. Community groups have hailed those programs in the past as valuable to helping them provide direct support to individuals facing immediate short-term housing problems. The VA's Director of Clinical Operations said 97% of the 26,000 vets housed are still in their new homes. The others are being aided in the search for alternative housing. VA officials said Monday's announcement means they are ahead of their goal to place at least 38,000 vets without stable shelter into permanent housing by the end of this year. Veterans seeking help with homelessness or related financial problems can call 877-424-3838 for help or visit the department's website. Also on the radar for today, researchers pried open a long-forgotten time capsule at the U.S. Military Academy at West Point yesterday. It was recently discovered inside the base of a monument and believed to have been left by cadets in the late 1820s. With one final meticulous incision, the lid wiggled free. The archaeologists fetched a flashlight, the dark interior of the cube preserving final moments of secrecy. Top officers, senior historians, archivists, and museum curators leaned in. The oxygen in the room suddenly was in short supply. In what could have either been the most dazzling illustration of an anticlimactic gathering or one of the best pranks in military history, perhaps both, the culmination of a centuries-old mystery at the U.S. Military Academy amounted to little more than some dirt. It's not clear when the box was placed in the monument's marble base or who chose any items inside, but 1829 West Point graduate Robert E. Lee, the future Confederate general, was a part of a committee of 5 cadets that may have been involved with the time capsule. And now, here are some other stories that we're hearing chirps about. In case you missed it, Russian authorities on Sunday confirmed the death of Wagner Group chief Yevgeny Prigozhin. The confirmation puts to rest any doubts about whether the mercenary leader turned mutineer was on a plane that crashed last week, killing everyone on board. President Joe Biden and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin over the weekend issued separate statements to honor 13 American service members who died during an attack while the U.S. was withdrawing troops from Afghanistan 2 years ago. Also over the weekend, Representative Corey Mills, a Florida Republican, introduced articles of impeachment against Defense Secretary Austin. He accused the Pentagon chief of a dereliction of duties when it came to the Afghanistan withdrawal. In case you missed it, the Army redesignated Virginia's Fort A.P. Hill to Fort Walker. The new name is in honor of the Civil War-era Medal of Honor recipient, Dr. Mary E. Walker. And the iconic host of The Price is Right, Bob Barker, a U.S. Navy veteran, died over the weekend. He was 99 years old. And on this day in history, in 1949, the Soviet Union conducted its first atomic bomb test. That's it for us this morning. To get more of the top stories and breaking news, go to defensenews.com/EBB to subscribe to the Early Bird Brief newsletter. Please give us a like, rating, and a comment wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to follow us on social media @defense_news and @military_times. The Early Bird Brief is hosted by me, Jonathan Lehrfeld, and produced by Zimone Z. Perez. Today's episode features stories by Zimone Perez, myself, Irene Lowenson, Leo Shane III, The Associated Press, and John Simpkins. Our editor-in-chief is Mike Roos. Have a great day.